As Renzo stood in the middle of the last episode of The Voice Season 27, the stage lights were burning brightly, and a constellation of dreams was suspended in the air from above. The electric pulse of the audience was synchronized with the rhythm of his heartbeat, which sounded like a drumming. Each and every ounce of his soul had been poured into this moment by Philadelphia's very own rock soul fighter, who was a science teacher by day and a musical alchemist by night. He was 34 years old. The third position. He heard Carson Daly's voice resound around the studio as he announced the results, and the words continued to play over and over in his head. In a tournament that had become his crucible, his canvas, and his confessional, he came in third place, which was a bittersweet bronze after not coming in first or second place. Before arriving at this point in time, Renzo, who was known to his students as Professor Renzo, and to the rest of the world as a father of three, had traveled a tortuous journey. The beginning of his adventure began many years ago, when he participated on American Idol Season 16 under a different name, Dennis Lorenzo, and he made it all the way to the top 9. The voice was the fire, but that event was the spark that ignited it. Renzo had been a formidable force ever since his blind audition, during which his gritty performance of Lynyrd Skynyrd's Simple Man earned him a position on Team John Legend. His voice, which was a chameleon, adapted to any obstacle that was put his way. It was a blend of the velvety sound of R&B and the harsh edge of rock. He had worked with musicians like As the Game and Teddy Riley in the past, so he was not unfamiliar with performing on stage. Nonetheless, this was a new experience for him. This presented him with the opportunity to imprint his name into the hearts of millions of people all around the country. The season had been a roller coaster, a tornado of blind auditions, battle rounds, knockouts, playoffs, and live shows. It had certainly been an exciting ride. The flexibility that Renzo displayed in his performances was truly remarkable. The song Happier Than Ever by Billie Eilish was the one he tackled with emotional depth. The song Too Sweet by Hozier was performed with swagger, and the song Dream On by Aerosmith was performed with a daring that dared to confront Steven Tyler's renowned howl. Every single song was like a stroke of the brush on his canvas, drawing a picture of an artist who refused to be confined to a specific genre. Early on, his coach, John Legend, recognized his potential and referred to him as a superstar whose vision went beyond the scope of the competition. The words that Legend had spoken to Renzo following his performance in the playoffs were words that got him through the difficult weeks. "It just feels like you're already a star," Legend had remarked. The culmination of Renzo's story was the final, which was shown on May 19 and 20, 2025. For his up-tempo performance, he selected Fly Away by Lenny Kravitz, and for his ballad, he selected Lover, You Should Come Over by Jeff Buckley. Both of these songs were chosen since they completely represented his spirit. It was a liberation, a sound burst of freedom and fire, and Fly Away was no exception. With his voice rising over the pulsating rhythm, Renzo prowled the stage, winning praise from Michael Bublé as flawless and a remark from John Legend that he was the show starter. As a man who appeared to channel the spirit of rock gods from the past, while making his own way, the audience screamed, carried up in his intensity. However, it was in the ballad that Renzo truly exposed his innermost feelings. Choosing Lover, You Should Come Over was a disturbing decision. It was a song of yearning and sorrow that demanded that the listener be vulnerable. His performance was visceral, almost to the point of being too raw, and there were periods of pitchiness that were recognized by certain observers. Nevertheless, it was precisely these flaws that gave it a human quality. As he sang of love that had been lost and lessons that had been learnt, Renzo's eyes sparkled with beauty and his voice broke with sorrow. Renzo's ability to turn every note into a story was demonstrated by the fact that Legend referred to it as stunning. For Renzo, it was a way to show his appreciation for his family, specifically his daughters Tatum, Aaliyah, and Nila, who were present in the audience and watching with proud expressions on their faces. At one point during the performance, his daughter shed a tear down her face. a moment that devastated the hearts of people all around the United States. As soon as the results were revealed on May 20th, the tension was immediately noticeable. On stage, there were 5 finalists: RENZO, who represented Teen Legend; Jalen Johnston, who represented Team Kelsey; Adam David, who represented Team Bubba; Lucia Flores-Wiseman, who represented Team Adam; and Jaden Cree, who represented Team Bubba. Their destiny was decided by the votes that were cast by the spectators. It was revealed that Jaden Cree had finished in 5th place, while Lucia Flores-Wiseman had finished in 4th position. 3rd spot went to RENZO's name, which came next. Even as the crowd clapped, there was a rumbling of dissatisfaction that spread across social media. Fans expressed their outrage on social media by posting messages such as "RENZO GOTQ Vampili Itli Ra BE" and "RENZO was the best from the start." These messages echoed the view that he deserved more. John Legend, who was visibly moved, hushed RENZO and said that he deserved to win, which was a subtle acknowledgement of the brilliant performance of his finalist. Jalen Johnston came in 2nd place, while Adam David, who was the very first person to ever win an instant save competition, brought home the trophy for Team Bubba. On the other hand, despite the fact that the victory was historic, many people believed that it was an upset. There were others who believed that RENZO's consistency, his range, and his stage presence were superior to those of his competitors. Nevertheless, coming in 3rd place was not an easy accomplishment. His tenacity, his capacity to connect with audiences, and his unyielding dedication to his profession were all on display in this momentous occasion. Rather than focusing solely on the placement, RENZO was more concerned in the adventure itself. When RENZO was backstage, his family was standing with him, and his girls were clutching to his sides. Confetti was falling for Adam David. He reflected on the sacrifices that he had made, including staying up late in the studio, spending time away from his children, and the burden of juggling teaching and performing. It was before the playoffs that he had made the statement. Making it to the lives would mean that everything I sacrificed was not in vain. Although 3rd place was not the winner, it was definitely validation. It demonstrated that his voice and his tale struck a chord with people. The following quote from his Instagram post from 2023 reverberated in his head: "If there's one thing that never fails to put a smile on my face, it's my family. They served as his mooring, his thinking, and his inspiration." The trip that RENZO took during the course of The Voice was more than just a competition. It was a declaration. He demonstrated to the United States of America that a black musician could successfully combine R&B and rock, that a parent could do his best to encourage his children to pursue their aspirations, and that a teacher could be a rock star. When he performed, he was able to cross the gap between different genres, generations, and feelings. Others regarded his farewell ballad as the most unfiltered manifestation of his artistry, despite the fact that some people criticized it for having pitch problems. Even though he was not flawless, he was genuine. RENZO did not exhibit any signs of resentment as he exited the stage. Even though it was a milestone, 3rd place was not a ceiling. It was around this time that he had performed alongside John Legend, singing "As It Was" by Harry Styles and "Pompeii" by Bastille alongside the top 12 artists. He had brought tears to the eyes of his family, coaches, and fans alike. It has been demonstrated that his voice had the ability to rock walls and stir souls. He had a bright future ahead of him, filled with new music, new stages, and new stories worth telling. The artist, the parent, and the professor, RENZO, was just getting his career off the ground now.